G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to DCS World with Mags, and once again welcome back aboard the A-18c Hornet and to the Persian Gulf map. So as we start prepping the Hornet for combat in the lead up to fence in, let's go over today's mission. This is based on a theoretical invasion of Iran by US forces, with the mission taking place around 2 weeks after the establishment of a beachhead and forward operating base in Gazir on the southern coast. US forces have pushed north, securing territory as far as Tonshi, with the current front lines forming in a large valley south of the town of Hamoud Abbasi. All territory to the north and east of this location is still under the control of Iran, with support from Russia, and is heavily defended with surface-to-air missile systems, along with fixed and mobile anti-aircraft guns. Our target for today is La Air Force Base to the northwest of the current front lines. Recon units in the area have spotted 4 Russian Tu-95 Bear strategic bombers on the ground currently being fueled and loaded. It's suspected that these bombers will be deployed against the FOB and forces based across the Gulf in Kasab. Our mission for today is to take out these bombers while they're still on the ground. A 4th ship of US Marine Corps Harrier IIs armed with sidearm radiation missiles has already been deployed on a SEAD mission against the SAM defences around La Air Force Base. All going to plan, they should take out the fixed and mobile radar installations based there a few minutes before we arrive. For this mission, we are the lead in a 2-ship flight of FA-18s armed with 4 Mk.II bombs for taking out the aircraft and any other ground targets we find, along with 2 Sparrows and 2 Sidewinders in case we encounter any airborne threats. An E-2 Hawkeye is on station along the south coast and is available to us should we need it to locate any airborne threats as well. So this mission is built around a low altitude nap of the Earth approach to the target area. The fencing point is a mountain range just south of Anjudan, and up until this point all hostile air defences have been eliminated. Once at the fence in, we have to descend into the Hormuz Pass, flying below the height of the mountains to avoid being targeted. This is the location of the current frontline battles and does include some mobile air defences. These range from truck-mounted anti-aircraft guns to shilkers, along with man-pads through some of the ground forces fighting within the area. This is of course on top of the tanks and other vehicles that are within the area that will take a shot at you with their machine guns if the opportunity presents itself. Now once the Harriers have hit the radar within the Air Force Base, we will be able to begin our run. However, that does not mean the base is undefended. There are still fixed and mobile anti-aircraft guns based around the base, so we still need to be careful. So having passed nav point 1, we've begun our descent into the Hormuz Pass. At this point we need to stay below the mountains at all times. The large mountain range directly ahead of the aircraft is effectively the border between US and hostile forces. If we get higher than that, we start dodging surface-to-air missiles, as well as being picked up by the hostile caps on the far side of the mountain range, which include MiG-21s and MiG-29s. Now all the way through this flight you will see me constantly looking down and checking the fuel gauge. This mission is actually heavily balanced around fuel. You have a full load of fuel in the aircraft, you have 1 external centerline mounted tank. It's entirely possible for you to actually reach the airfield from the carrier before the Harriers have even managed to take out the radar installations, but you will bingo fuel the aircraft on approach to the enemy runway in the process of doing it. The fuel budget for the aircraft includes the flight from the carrier to the target zone, the return trip back to the carrier, and around a 6-minute window at combat performance on the engines should you encounter any air threats. This should leave you with about 20% fuel in the aircraft when you are performing your landing. And we have arrived at the front lines. Best bet is not to hang around here for too long. And the Harriers have just hit the target. The radar installations at La Air Force Base have been destroyed, but only 3 of the 4 Tu-95s are currently present at the runway, so 1 of them has taken off. So we are still going to have to continue on mission, destroy the 3 bears that are there, and then we're going to have to go and see if we can find the 4th one and put it down. So we're now clear of the front lines and ready to make our run on Lars. So, time to get rid of the central tank. We've used all the fuel that's in it. Now I did make a small mistake here. I had actually forgot to hit the master arm as I was approaching over the front lines. Now this means I can't eject the tank straight away until the master arm is activated, but more importantly it means that while I was flying over the front lines, which is an area that does have some surface-to-air defences, I had no countermeasures enabled. If I had hit the countermeasure dispense button, nothing would have happened. So, oops. But nevertheless, we are now set up. Bombs are already selected as we're on approach, so we are ready to deploy the Mk./83s, and the tank is now gone. Now, I picked up a radar contact here. I initially thought the contact may be the Harriers leaving the area, but I'm scanning at 80 and the target's intermittently popping up at around 60, so that's too far out. So that's likely our missing bear. Now, I have nothing that can hit it at this range from this position, and I do have to deal with the runway first. So I just kept in mind that that's likely where I'm going to have to start searching once the runway's been dealt with and moved on to target. So at this point we've picked up a little bit of altitude as we make our run in. With the SAMs disabled in this area, we are clear to get up over the top of the mountains and make sure we have the altitude needed to perform the bombing run nice and clean. As I mentioned before, fixed anti-aircraft guns are still in place, so once we've dropped our bombs, we're going to go vertical, roll out, drop countermeasures, and then drop down over the valley on the far side of the runway and proceed out of the area and in the direction of that radar contact before contacting our E2 for a bogey dope to see if we can get a direction and heading on our missing bear. And we have eyes on the bears. They're in the eastern parking area between the infrastructure for the runway and the main runway itself. And we can see the fires where the radar installations were taken out by the Harriers just a few moments before. And release. Bombs away. Perfect hit. And we get our second mission objective. The bear's spotted to the southwest of La Air Force Base under escort by MiG-29s. We're going to intercept and eliminate the target. Now I'm running a custom countermeasure dispense program here. We're releasing 2 chaff and 2 flare on each depress of the dispense button with a 1 second interval between each release. It's not an overly elaborate program, but it is nice and tight and controlled, preventing overusage of the countermeasures and any chance of running out. So from here we're just going to drop low and make sure we're clear of the radar of the guided anti-aircraft guns around the Air Force Base, and then we're going to start picking up some altitude. But before we do that, I'm going to flick over to navigation, and I accidentally selected radar there rather than what I was actually after, so I'll quickly get that sorted back out again. So what I'm going to do is set my next navigation point to final, which is the approach nav point for the carrier, so I've always got a direction while I'm in combat for which way the carrier is, just in case I get a bit disoriented. And at this point we should be far enough away, so we'll start picking up some altitude and we will contact our E2 and see whether or not we can get a heading and an altitude for our missing bear.
Overlord, Springfield, 1-1, request bogey dope. Springfield 1-1, Overlord, Bra 23143 at 18,000, flanking.
So a couple of minutes on and we have managed to locate our missing bear. It's at 18,000 feet heading south towards the coast in the rough direction of the FOB. And as promised, it is under escort by 2 MiG-29s, which are just starting to engage us now. Now I was having a little bit of trouble getting a shoot order on the Sparrows, but we managed to lock them up and pick it up on the second pass, so it mustn't have been a clean lock. Missile away. Now our lock here is on the bear, and both me and my wingman have fired 1 missile at it each. And there's the trails up above. Switch IR. Lock MiG-29 and release. Brake and countermeasure. And splash MiG. You see the missile trail down below. Second MiG is directly below us, so roll over and dive in. Lock, release. Second sidewinder away. See the countermeasure trail, impact, splash MiG. The Bear, on the other hand, is actually still airborne. Despite having 2 Sparrows fired at it, it has managed to avoid both and is continuing on target. However, 2 is already on it. So with the Bear taken out, that is mission complete and it is time to go home. Now if you've been following the channel, you will have already seen this landing in yesterday's video. The Harriers from the Seed mission arrived back at the task force at the same time I did. Now they were meant to land on the LPH at the lead of the task force, but for some strange reason they decided they wanted to land on the Stennis instead, which, well, made for an interesting landing. Apparently the bar on the Stennis is better or something. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you very much for watching. Now, after requests on my last video, this mission will be made available for everyone to download. I've got to do a little bit more tuning on it, add briefings and stuff like that, which is obviously stuff that I don't normally bother including in my custom-built missions, but it will be available in single-player, 2-player co-op, and a 4-player co-op mode. I'll be making some difficulty adjustments for the higher player count numbers, adding some additional air defenses and so on, to make up for the fact that you have multiple players on the field, and I'll put links to them once they're available in the video description down below. Also, in the video description down below, be sure to check out all of my social media and, of course, my Patreon for those who would like to support the channel. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters. Your support is what allows me to continue doing my thing here on the channel. And until next time, guys, remember to click that like button, share and subscribe if you would like to see more, and if you want to make sure you get notifications from any videos on the channel, be sure to hit the bell icon next to the subscribe button, and as always, take care.